change is happening.
It's important that we first feel human and then understand what our gender or class is.
Welcome to the second edition of our special show from Mumbai, India.
We're taking a look at the female artists making their voices heard in a society where men outweigh women both demographically and politically.
India's economic and cultural capital, Mumbai, might be best known for the bright lights and dazzling decor of Bollywood, but it's also home to the fashion industry and a burgeoning theatre and performing arts scene. Radhika Vaz is a regular on the stand-up comedy circuit, one of only a handful of Indian women playing it for laughs.
As a stand-up comedian, your work was quite quickly labelled feminist.
Yeah.
How did you feel about that, and why do you think there's this need to categorise?
I mean, I was proud, obviously, because I am a feminist. And I'm perfectly happy with representing that mind space, because I think that's the correct side of history to be on to begin with.
If a man had his period, he would be unapologetic. It would be like, bro, I got my period, bro. Yeah, my pee game. I'm the pee man.
Comedy is notoriously a male-dominated sector. How did you feel about embarking upon a career in that?
I didn't think about it like that, because I think for me what happened was the first experience I had with comedy was improvised comedy, and my teacher was a woman. It didn't occur to me that this comedy game is fully male until really a few years later when I started to realize that, oh shit, yeah, it's the same old thing. And I think that's true of all women who go into male-dominated fields, which, by the way, is every field in the world. I'd like to know a field other than breastfeeding that's not male-dominated.
Tackling issues like dating, sex, skin lightening and embarrassing body parts, Radhika Vaz named her show and her book Unladylike, addressing any potential sexism head-on.
I'm hoping in the next 4 or 5 years, the bush comes back. I hope it comes back in fashion, and all those girls who did the laser thing, you're going to have to buy a wig.
Radhika, in your writing and your stand-up, you've mentioned that men often like to be dominant, have the upper hand, and some of them don't love the idea of a funny woman. How do you think that idea is challenged or reinforced in Indian culture?
Funny women, at least I speak for myself, we are drawn to look at anything in a slightly different way. And I definitely think that there's something about the male ego where that's his job. You know, male comedians joking about wives or joking about women and how they're nagging and this and that and the other. And I think that when a woman flips that on its head and starts pointing things out to the guy, even if it's in a funny way, it bothers his ego. And yeah, I think from a cultural perspective, it's just a question of he's in charge, he's the boss of the family. And I think sometimes when you make fun of something, you equalize it a little bit. And that's where the problem is. He doesn't want to be equalized. He wants to be up here.
Male nipples are being treated very differently from female nipples, okay? Your nipples are okay for public consumption, mine are not.
When we talk about feminism in the arts, for you, what are the major issues being addressed?
I guess as a comedian, the first time I notice I care about something is because I'm angry about it. Then I try and find a way to make it funny so that other people can listen to what the issue is without me shouting at them like a school teacher, you know? A lot of women are not calling themselves feminists. Now, if you don't call yourself a feminist, there's a big problem, because what you're essentially saying is that you don't want equal rights for women. A lot of our culture and our art works sort of talking about things that used to happen in the past, depicting things that happened in the past, so that we don't repeat that again.
And so if we can say that arts and culture are perhaps going in a more progressive direction, how do you see that translating into the day-to-day experience, perhaps in the public space?
Women's safety, for me personally, has always been the biggest thing. If you depend on the state to create a safe environment for women, which is not a lot to ask, and it's still not happening, yeah, that's a big problem, because it affects women in every city and every village and every home in the country. And recently we had a movement which was, I will go out. And we all did that online, we all hashtagged it. And I know a lot of people are very skeptical. They're like, what are these women's marches and what are these silly hashtags? But they're not silly. They are about raising awareness. It is about me letting a girl who may not know that this is something that we should be putting our attention to.
High-profile female artists may be staking their claim to more space in the cultural sphere, but ordinary women are using cultural means to reclaim safe public space for themselves too. Inspired by a book of the same name, Why Loiter works to foster an inclusive atmosphere where women are free to loiter in urban centres, visibly and safely. The group also uses culture as a form of activism. There's a play, and every Sunday they go into the Mumbai metro to sing Bollywood songs. Radhika took me to meet Priyanka, a member of Why Loiter.
So I wanted to introduce you to Priyanka Charan, who is part of a movement called Why Loiter.
Yes. When you go out on the streets in India, you'll see a large group of men doing nothing, but women are always heading somewhere. And it's generally in a cluster, or generally women, when they're traveling alone, they're in public transport, and they're always heading somewhere. You don't find them loitering or in parks or just wandering, let's say, at a tea shop. They got women together through social media, and they would encourage women to come out, let's say, once in a while, to just go and loiter in public spaces.
Hang around.
Hang around. Just do nothing.
Without an agenda.
Without the threat of being questioned, of being leched at or ogled at, and just being there.
I believe you're going to go into the Mumbai train system right now.
We're going to do a set of interactive activities with people traveling by metro who are completely unaware that we're coming. And the best way to involve people in India is through Bollywood music. So we're going to have a round of songs and Antakshari.
We're keen to see how Priyanka carries out her campaign, but decide that a full television crew could draw too much attention and scare off the shyer members of the public that Why Loiter tries to bring together. So Priyanka makes her way to the metro with just our cameras. Mumbai's metro system has all-female carriages, but they're easily accessible from the mixed spaces.
Yes, so if you all can please join us, it will be ladies versus the other side.
Priyanka decides to pit the sexes against each other in a friendly sing-off. And it looks like there's plenty of enthusiasm from both camps.
हसीना जुल्फों वाली जाने जहां ढूंढती है काफिर आके किसका निशान महफिल है शमा गिरती हो कहा बंजारा दीवाना.
Hi, Priyanka. So, how did it go?
Very well, very exciting.
And in general, what kind of reactions do you get?
Well, initially people are a little hesitant, especially when there are large numbers. But the good thing is the elderly, like the older women, they joined in very willingly. It was the younger people who were a little more hesitant.
You do singing in the metro and also in the streets at night. Why do you think that singing culture is effective in these kind of events?
Because this country practically survives on Bollywood. So cinema, films in India are a huge thing. It's a part of every life. It's something that everybody grows up on, irrespective of caste, class, language. It's one thing that really binds this country together. So no matter where you start this, it always picks up.
As well as creating work for galleries, theatres and movie screens, Indian artists are increasingly bringing feminism to public spaces too. And doing that through culture seems to be an effective step towards redressing the balance between the sexes here in India.